Good afternoon. Welcome to those of you joining us for today's webcast. This is part of the MSU Alumni Association's professional series, where we look to provide our alumni and friends with meaningful content that will help to advance them professionally and personally. Joining us today are David Frayer, Director of Executive Development Programs, and Kristin St. Assistant Director of Open Enrollment Programs and Assistant Director of the Demmer Center for Business Transformation. I invited them today because these two individuals are absolutely on the front lines of Michigan State's efforts to help position executives and the organizations they work for future success. They know firsthand what other individuals are seeking in terms of development and what organizations are seeking in terms of development, and I'm happy to have them here today to share their insight with you. Before we start, I do want to note that this cast is being recorded. For those of you who would like a copy of the recording, you are welcome to request it through the email address that I've provided in the chat area. You are also welcome to pose your questions. This is a cast where your input is appreciated in the chat area. You will find a box at the lower left-hand corner of your screen where you can log your questions and comments. So without further ado, I will turn the floor over to David and Kristin, and thank you both again for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa. It's our pleasure to be here. We're very excited about the opportunity to share some insights and information about executive education and professional development and some of the trends and things that we've seen across a number of organizations and a number of individuals. So on behalf of Kristin and myself, again, welcome. Glad to have all of you with us. For today, what we've put together is just a session that we thought would focus on a couple of things. First of all, what is professional development and why is it so important in today's business environment? It's certainly not a new activity, certainly something that organizations and individuals have been participating in for many, many years. But what's different about it today, and what are the options and resources that are available to you as individuals out there? And we've broken the discussion really down into these five categories. We'll talk a little bit about individual professional development, what you as an individual can do to help further your professional education. Second is focused a little bit on team development, how you can work together collaboratively with others and develop capabilities to be more effective in team contexts. The third is organizational development and the whole concept around what can we do to help advance an entire organization or a division or department or group within an overall organization. We'll share a couple insights with you about informal development activities as well, because while many of the things that we'll talk about today are more formal educational activities, the reality is personal and professional development can take a lot of different forms, and so we'll talk a little bit about that informal development and what types of opportunities could be out there. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about the resources of MSU and some of the things that we can make available to you through our networks here as well. So to start off, what is professional development? I think it's really important that folks understand that business, the pace of change in business is happening at an ever-increasing rate. Technology is changing rapidly, and the way we conduct business, the way we interact with people locally and globally is changing significantly. The advent of big data and predictive analytics is transforming the way business is being conducted, and as there's been so much discussion, we are now live and active in the internet generation. This is the first generation of people who have grown up their entire lives with this rapid, broad array of technology available to them. And these changes and the impact it's having on business is having a huge impact on professional development and the need to continually reinvent yourselves. You hear a lot of people talk about the fact that in some ways your career now has become a race between retirement and obsolescence. In order to make retirement, you almost have to really stay current with what's going on from both a technology standpoint, but also a business application standpoint. And so we're seeing much more discussion about the fact that over the course of a career, you may not be with a single organization for that career. You may be with 3, 4, 5, 10 different organizations over that career. And as a result, you're going to have to continually reinvent yourself and invest in your skills and capabilities and knowledge to stay current and relevant and applicable in that business environment. A lot of folks in the past may be familiar with environments where, the organization was in a much more paternalistic perspective, and they kind of took care of their employees and made sure that their employees were, invested in and well developed to serve them in the future. Well, today's marketplace is much more driven by the responsibility of the individual to keep themselves current. We're in a very competitive labor market, and there are lots of alternatives to us. And so, if we want to be that best talent, that best chosen individual, and keep ourselves right at the forefront of what business needs, we really have to invest in ourselves. And that's where professional development in all of its various forms can certainly help. So, what I'd like to do now is kind of turn it over to Kristin St. Marie and let her talk through the first of these areas, individual development.
Hi everyone, Kristin St. Marie here. And so a lot of what needs to be done in today's environment, as Dave had said, it's such a competitive environment and people are moving from many different jobs and organizations. You don't really see a lot of lifers at a lot of organizations like we saw in the past. And really, there's a lot of opportunity for you to take initiative and have your own personal and development plan. And some organizations will have a very structured format for that and identify high potential candidates, help them really accelerate their professional development path so that they are being prepared and groomed to be the next leaders of the organization. And that is a great opportunity if you strive towards that leadership level. You really want to reach out and try and have the opportunity to be part of those programs. If there isn't a program like that available in your organization, there's a lot of things you can do for yourself and initiate those opportunities. Um, you can, really meet with your supervisor, your director, perhaps someone in your human resource group to really take a look at on your annual review or semi-annual review what areas you can look to further develop. And once you identify what those areas might be, you can reach out to professional development, executive education courses, both degree and non-degree granting opportunities, where it really helps you enhance and build upon your skill set, helping you create those opportunities to move upward in the organization. So my recommendation to lots of young professionals or someone who's looking to take the next step in their career is to really take initiative. Let people know you want to have new opportunities. You're willing to take challenging assignments that you would be interested in new opportunities. And unless you really voice that and drive that process for yourself, people may not know in your organization that's what you're desiring. They might assume you're happy with your current role. So it's good to take risks. It's good to let people know you're interested in new opportunities. And it's really important that when you see something that you think would be interesting and challenging for you and help with your professional career path, that raise your hand, let someone know you're ready. And if you're not selected for those opportunities, find out why. Ask, what are the why you weren't able to receive the opportunity, and what could you do to improve your skill set so that the next time you would be prepared and ready. And then you can seek out educational training through maybe some of your professional affiliations. If you're a CPA, I know the Michigan Association of CPAs does a lot of professional training, annual conferences. Many universities offer professional development courses that are as we do offer here. Some of the examples are noted on the slide that are great for high potentials. We have the Broad Executive Program is a week-long seminar that really provides that preparation and focus for those high potentials and covers a lot of the key areas around strategic thinking, leadership, financial performance, being creative and innovative. Those are some of the key topic areas that we focus on. We also have a program that's exclusive for women professionals looking to enhance their career called Executive Leadership for Women. And that is a 3-day program divided into 2 separate modules in the fall. And it really offers the opportunity for women to think about what are some of the gender differences that women may have that might be holding them back from those advancement opportunities. And it's just a great foundational course for women who are growing their career. We have also a lot of courses in many different category areas. We have leadership and strategy courses. We have courses in finance and accounting. We have many programs under process management and process mapping, strategic process alignment, and we offer a few courses in our supply chain area of expertise. We have #1 ranking here in supply chain, and then we also have some in sales and marketing area. I see a question here from Lisa wondering what are some of the examples of gender differences. So one thing we highlight in the women's leadership program is sometimes women tend to not take those risks and not really negotiate. They're excellent negotiators for their business, for their company, for their family, but when it comes down to the opportunity to really negotiate for themselves, women tend to kind of wait and be recognized for the good work that they've done, where most men tend to always ask for those new opportunities, ask for the promotion, and that's what a lot of those kinds of gender tendencies come out in our course. It really helps you learn just by nature of our gender as a female where we might hold ourselves back from those advancement opportunities. It really helps you understand where you need to be sensitive about that as you approach. One other thing would be in how we communicate in email. Women tend to use a lot of exclamation points, which really cannot be, men tend to be very more direct in their communication. So just keeping an awareness about that really helps so that you are not being evaluated based on some of your gender tendencies, but you provide those opportunities very equally for yourself. So that kind of covers a lot of the opportunity in your individual development. I think that, you know, there are a lot of great programs within organizations where they try to identify those high potentials and provide a lot of guidance and mentorship through that. But unfortunately, a lot of organizations do not have that kind of program. So you really need to take the initiative for yourself. And the mentorship piece is another critical area where you can really gain some insights and guidance from someone in your organization. Seek out those opportunities. Sometimes there are formal mentoring programs in an organization, and again, that's really tied to that high potential methodology so that you have a senior executive that's kind of mentoring and introducing you and helping you learn the corporate culture. But if you don't have that opportunity, you haven't been assigned a mentor, it's always a really good idea to look for people within your organization that you admire and would like to aspire to and seek opportunities to spend time with them. It may be a very informal process, but it can still be very impactful and meaningful for you in your growth. There's also team development, and this is a little more formal, where the organization is really going to take the initiative, and I'm going to turn this over to Dave. He's going to handle this particular slide.
Thanks, Kristin. So As we've talked about this concept of we operate in a lot of different business environments today, and we have responsibility for a lot of different things. Well, the way work is being done today increasingly is through teams, and so a lot of team-based assignments that folks are finding themselves responsible for collectively with other people. And one of the things that we've really come to understand here at the Broad College at Michigan State is the fact that most work really has become collective responsibility. And so, how do you work collectively with folks to get things done? And those folks can be across multiple functions, they can be across multiple levels within an organization, they can be formal project teams that are assembled for an ongoing basis. They could be informal teams that are put together just to drive a particular project. And again, as business continues to globalize, this whole concept of virtual global teams and how do we work collaboratively with folks that are in multiple time zones with multiple languages and multiple cultures and do these things effectively. And so understanding in a deep and meaningful way how to be successful in team environments, I think, is important, but also how can you work with a team to improve their overall capability and make sure that they're delivering on what the organization ultimately wants. And so, again, you're going to see in executive education and in conference settings and in a lot of different professional arenas, you're going to see a lot more focus coming on teams and team opportunities. We've pointed out here just two examples of things that we're actively involved in because we think that they're relevant and interesting. The first is this concept of adaptive leadership, which is a program that we offer here in the Broad College that focuses really on how is it that organizations can actually go about having people with different skills, different knowledge, different strengths at different points in a project. In other words, it's about understanding when you need to be a leader, when you need to be a follower, when you need to be collaborative, when you need to be more assertive, etc. And so helping people understand those things becomes very important. And then a second example is this whole concept around how do you actually build winning teams. And we've actually, through our experiences here at Michigan State, we've put together a program that focuses on taking lessons from coaches in the athletic program, folks like Tom Izzo and Susie Merchant and Mark D'Antonio and Tom Anastas, and saying, how have those folks as coaches gone about building appropriate cultures and holding people accountable and creating unique opportunities to create really high performance teams. So again, we've got a lot of different opportunities out there. I noticed Lisa's posted a question about consultants and what kind of a role consultants play in these teams. And I think that's part of the trick is oftentimes you'll see outside forces that can influence teams positively or negatively. People who have less accountability becoming disruptive, people who feel they're in positions of authority and power where maybe they aren't, becoming disruptive in that team type of environment. And so this is what the whole area of team development is really all about, is how do you maneuver, how do you operate, how do you work in these kinds of spaces to be effective. Another example is this whole issue of time zones. So do a lot of work with companies that have people positioned in Europe and Asia and North America, and when is the appropriate time to schedule conference calls for the folks to get together and work collaboratively on a project, or at least touch base on projects. And many North American firms tend to be North American centric, and so we kind of look at our 8 to 5 time day and say, okay, when can we find a time during this time frame that works for us, and yet don't necessarily recognize that perhaps a more balanced way to approach it is to look at other regions, and let's make sure that across the meetings we create balanced opportunity for each group to be on the call during their normal work day. These may seem like very small things, but when you talk about the fact that at the end of the day, the culture, the performance is driven through how these teams actually operate in the business environment, in the business context, it becomes a really rich area for training and development. We've really spent a lot of time in the Broad College reorienting our MBA program completely around teams. They basically operate in a team environment almost exclusively and get lots of experience with global folks and people from different cultures and different backgrounds, different ethnicities, all to try and help people understand the critical nature of this team opportunity and this team requirement for the future. So again, just like Kristin emphasized, the really critical role that individual development plays, where you're taking control of where you want your career to go and managing those things. Another area to really be thinking about is how can I build team skills and what can I do to invest in and enhance my ability to operate in more of a team type of context. I'll let Kristin spend some time talking a little bit about our next category, which is organizational development.
Thanks, Dave. So the big difference between the individual development and organizational development is, often on the individual side, you attend an existing program that's out there. So we offer a lot of programs throughout the year, and we'll have a variety of people attending our courses, and uh, there isn't a need for a large group of people to have that same training, or it's a small organization. There's a few key people that may be invested for that kind of training. So the advantage of that is it definitely provides the opportunity for lots of individual companies and individuals within larger organizations, but you also have the opportunity to network with many different people within the program that are from many different organizations. So there's a real benefit in that. We found with the Women's Leader Program, the desire to stay connected to each other was extremely strong, to provide a network of support for each other. They're women from all different organizations across the U.S. And so we just ran our first reunion program to continue learning and development that's focused around women's needs and leadership, but to also have the opportunity for everyone to re-engage and reconnect. And for we have run that course 3 years now, so there were 3 years worth of participants, a variety of participants from each year reconnecting, and there was a lot of value in that, and there's a desire to keep that going. On the other hand, there's organizational development opportunities, and that's when an organization identifies, I have a need, say in financial management. We would like to broaden the financial knowledge across a broad scope of individuals within our organization. Maybe one department has a very specific need, and often they'll contact us with that in mind. They may identify a specific program that they find primarily meets the needs that they've identified for this large group of people. And then we will meet with the organization to really learn what their objectives are for this training. What are their needs? What are the outcomes they're looking for? And we spend some time to customize and tailor that content so that it's really focused on that organization. We can represent models and examples that are extremely relevant for the individuals that would attend the course. The core course is typically fairly similar to what we offer in our open enrollment portfolio, but it provides the opportunity to really tailor and customize that training. And I think the real value in in-house training or customized training is that there's a broader number of people that are gaining that new knowledge, and the transfer of learning within the organization can be greater because it's not just one individual getting all excited about this new method or new way of thinking, a new model, performance model, and then trying to implement that on their own back in their organization when no one else had had that training. So when we can come on site and bring that training to a broader group of individuals or a full department of people, it really helps transform the thinking. It can drive cultural change and really provide that impact for the organization. I think it also shows, as far as the supporting retention, it really can show that the company really believes in their employees. They're supporting their employees, they're investing in their employees and providing them this training opportunity to expand their learning. And many companies provide this training within their own organization. They look to their leaders to help facilitate that training, or they may have a full training professional development department that provides a lot of that kind of training. We find when we work with organizations that have a very strong learning culture in their organization, by bringing in an outside speaker, it really complements and enhances what is offered within the organization. But people appreciate having someone from outside to really give a broader perspective on that subject matter, the topic that they're focusing on. I see a question here from Colleen that says, going back to the individual development, what are some of the signals you need to reinvest yourself? I think that is probably quite personal for each individual, but if you're feeling a bit stagnant in your career, you don't feel you have something, your career, your current position is not really challenging for yourself, or you're looking for something new, I think that can be a signal that you'd really like to um, invest in expanding your knowledge base, looking for some stretch assignments, taking a little bit of risk and trying something different, opening up the opportunities. If you don't try new things or get exposed to different areas of the business, it can be somewhat limiting for your growth and opportunity. Um, and then I think a lot of times what you really have to spend that time evaluating for yourself on performance measurements against, how are you performing against the measurables that they're looking for in your role. Talking with your supervisor, getting that really honest feedback, maybe talking even to some of your peers or people who report up to you, looking for guidance and input from individuals that can give you that feedback. You can make those assessments on your own, but I think it's very valuable to gain that feedback from others within your organization or trusted peers or colleagues that can give you some feedback. I see another comment here from Lisa that she agrees about the retention point. Candidates often weigh a company's willingness to invest in their employees when deciding if they want to accept an offer. And I think that's true. I think sometimes companies are worried, I'm going to make this large capital investment in training and development for these individuals, maybe send them to earn their MBA. And what if they leave? What if I invest in them and they leave? And I think most studies will show that that's in fact the opposite effect, and you may lose some people, or certain in industries, certain organizations may be deemed the best, has the best employees, and everyone's trying to recruit their employees. But the fact is, individuals see my organization believes in me, they're spending time, energy, and money on me to help me be a stronger leader in this organization, and most people would want to stay with that kind of organization. So um, there's great value both in an individual development strategy as well as organizational development strategy. And the examples we listed here, we do quite a bit of the organizational development. We have been partnering with Chrysler organization for the last 3 years, bringing in both our Adaptive Leader 2-day program and offering that to many different executives throughout the organization. And we're also working with the product safety and quality division within Chrysler, and have really refined our finance for non-financial manager program, and we'll be running that several times each year for the next 2 or 3 years. In essence, every buyer in their organization will have this training. So it'll really transform the thinking and enhance their ability to make an impact for the organization. And for many years, Dave has been working with Masco Corporation. We have a very highly customized year-long leadership development program in operations management, and that was really built from scratch, really sitting down with the organization and meeting with their leaders and their HR group to really learn and understand what they were trying to achieve with this program, then identifying specific faculty that could deliver on the content areas that were identified, and really shaping that program to meet the needs that they have. It was a global it's a global program where they draw a global audience from all over the world, all their different divisions across the world, and bring them in. These are the people that they deem as the high potentials, the future leaders of their organization. But it's over the course of about a year that they do this work, and there's a lot of group activity, very focused work that they will come up with opportunities to really identify improving processes, reducing cost, enhancing product lines, different things that they'll do that will really show a value and payback to the organization. They can really measure what the value of the coursework is by the project work that the students produce at the end. I'm going to move on to our next slide, which is more informal development. I'm a big believer in this. In our Women's Leader program, we highlight on that. We have a whole section on networking and the strength of what networking can do for your career and do for you. So part of your opportunity not only is a formal educational learning and training and development, but getting involved in boards and committees, and within your organization there's probably many opportunities to volunteer to serve on a committee or lead an initiative, a community project or something like that. So this is an opportunity for you to really expand your network beyond just your work and professional scope, but into the community and meeting lots of different individuals. And I would recommend that you be looking for an organization that has great meaning for you, but also you may be looking for organizations that might add value for your career development. I have worked with Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure here in mid-Michigan, and I served as a board member, then as the board president, and I'm serving my final 2-year term as a board member. And it's been an extremely meaningful opportunity for me. It provides me a lot of opportunity to strengthen my leadership skills, and puts me in a different role than I serve here in my role at Michigan State University. But you expand your network and really broaden your knowledge through engagements like this. I had done a lot of committee work in the past, and I think that's a great starting point, but a board is a much greater responsibility. So there are nonprofit board opportunities, but there's also the opportunity to move forward into a corporate board position. That would be something that you would want to kind of grow towards and prepare yourself for. And there are actually many educational opportunities and courses that help you prepare for those opportunities. There's also opportunities where you can look within your organization. I know here at Michigan State University, there's lots and lots of opportunities to serve on committees or serve on programs or projects. We have a formal mentoring program here at Michigan State in the Broad College, where professionals and alum can mentor our students. And I happen to also be an alum of Michigan State, so I do formally mentor some of our undergrad and graduate students and try and provide them direction and guidance. But that helps get you engaged and reconnected and enhance your network. I'm also seeing another question here from Colleen. Can you share any before and after stories of individuals with companies you've helped with development? Well, I can share some stories about the women in our Women's Executive Leadership Program. We did a survey after the second year that we ran that program, just to identify what impact our leadership development program has had on the women who attended in their careers. And we found over 50% of the women who attended our first 2-year worth of programs, which is about 75 women. More than 50% within the first 6 months post-program received advancements in their career or new assignments that were an advancement for their career. And granted, I think most of the women that are identified to attend and supported by their organization to participate in that course are deemed high potentials, but I think the program really gives the women the voice. They understand I need to, speak up a little bit more and let people know what my goals and aspirations are, and it's not going to fall in my lap. So not only does it help you think more strategically and sharpen your leadership skill set and some of the skills you need as a leader, but it really creates that awareness of how do you approach growth in your career and how do you make those opportunities become available. And so we're pretty proud of that. I don't think that we really identify and track that with all of our courses, and it would probably be challenging. But of those women, the 50% that received that promotion, 100% did attribute that the program itself really helped them gain that opportunity. So it can be very impactful. I see another.
Kristen, I would
Go ahead,
Kristen,
Dave.
actually, let me add just an organizational one too, just to
Okay.
kind of balance that off. So one of the things that we often try and do from an organizational development standpoint is right up front set goals. What is the organization trying to achieve? What's the outcome that they desire at the end of this educational effort? And one example, again, within organizations, a lot of cross-functional opportunity to collaborate and to work more effectively across different units and across different functional areas is a big driver in organizations. And so building a program that literally brought together people from different functions, put them in mixed project teams, allowed them to get an understanding of what are the key metrics, the key drivers of other parts of the organization, how do I contribute to their success, et cetera, became the foundation for an integrated operations type of program for another organization. And in that case, again, used project teams to kind of give people an opportunity to look at business challenges through a multi-perspective type of view and design solutions for the organization that would take into account how would we design this or how would we come up with a solution for this. Not if we look at it from our traditional functional lens, but if we really start to take into account all the different parts of the organization that are impacted or playing a role in this. And so again, the ability to assess kind of a before, here's what the culture is, here's what the perspective is, here's how we go about solving problems, to an after the program, here's what the culture is now, here's how we now go about solving problems, here are the types of things that we think are really critical as an organization going forward. Again, it's really focused on driving an organizational outcome. So you've got a lot of different options here, whether you're talking individual development, organizational development, and I guess the key message here is be really clear up front. What is it that you're trying to achieve? Is it that you want to aspire to a new position? Is it that you want to enhance your skills in a new and evolving area? Is it that you, as an organization, feel there are weaknesses or gaps in a particular area? And can we design a solution, or can you find a solution that helps you address those different issues? So I see Doug also has a question here, Kristen. How often do MBA and tech change companies during career? I assume you're asking, Doug, how many times does an MBA change companies during their career? And if that is indeed the question you're asking, the number is increasing basically because what we're seeing is people who have very defined skill sets who are basically leaping from one organization to another as they take those skills, enhance them, find new opportunities for advancement. It's very interesting. We often find that inside a single organization, your opportunity for career advancement, your opportunity for raises and salary increases can be depressed. And so we see a lot more companies who are willing to jump to another organization because they're given new opportunities, because they see salary increase potential and things down that line. So again, that's a big trend. And how many times? Again, it depends by the individual. It depends the industry, and depends on how rapidly the skills are evolving in that particular industry. But obviously, in technology-based careers, much greater. We're seeing some people that have as little as a 3-year span at a particular organization. Um, I've also heard a lot more discussion recently of people getting multiple MBAs in a career. A lot of people get their undergraduate degree, go out and work for a few years, come back and get an MBA, go out for a few more years, and then, in the past, the primary way that you continued to develop your career was through professional development, executive education. But I'm now hearing people who are getting specialized master's degrees, a specialized degree in a functional area like a master of science in supply chain or a master of science in finance or a master of science in international business. I see people going back and getting additional MBA degrees that have a different major or a different focus to them. Again, we're seeing lots of different development. I see your other comment that you've seen a survey that said about 6 or 7 different companies in a career. That would be very consistent, again, with things that we've seen. But again, I caution you that it varies a little bit by industry. It varies a little bit by, what professional area you're in within the organization and how rapidly those skill sets are evolving. For instance, we're investing a lot here at the Broad College in the whole area of predictive analytics, and we're starting to see how the availability of data is radically transforming the way we think about marketing, the way we think about supply chain, the way we think about innovation. And again, unless you find ways to expose yourself to these new techniques and these new ways of doing business decision making, you can find yourself stagnating and becoming irrelevant relatively quickly. And so I think that's one of the key points.
I would add in, Dave, here that I think I don't know the statistics, but I do believe that gender tendencies have a big influence on this particular data or statistic as well, that the younger generations aren't as committed to one, organization. They've witnessed their parents or their grandparents who were very devoted and dedicated to their organization lose their position after 20 or 30 years with the recession and so forth. So I think that it'll be evolving and it'll be cyclical, but I do think the younger generation is less inclined to really think they're going to stay with the same company organization for their full career. That's not probably a typical mindset. And Lisa may have some actual data on that, more knowledge than Dave and I do, but I know I've seen some of our faculty present on gender differences, which might be a really interesting topic for this, Lisa, in the future. There's some great data. How do you manage different generations and what are some of their tendencies? So anyhow, that's a great question. I know that's an evolving area. Moving forward, the next thing we wanted to share with you is a little bit about what are all the resources that Michigan State University can offer to you, and I'm always on a mission to make sure people understand all the vast resources that are available. I think most people think of the traditional model as you come here as a student, you graduate, and you're basically done with your connection, other than our development folks or maybe alumni organization contacting you to keep you engaged, or game athletic events. But we do a lot of things to try and develop an awareness of all the many opportunities. So when we talk with organizations, we let them know, the more contact points you have as an organization or as an individual with the university, it can really broaden and strengthen the opportunities you have here at Michigan State. So you can hire and recruit interns to work in your organization. And no matter how big or small your organization, there are opportunities. The new work I'm doing with the Demer Center for Business Transformation, one of our key strategic goals is aligning our students to work in partner organizations under the tutelage, guidance, and mentorship of the Demer Center staff and faculty, where they're getting hands-on learning in applying lean principles. The organization is receiving a great value through the work that the students are doing and the knowledge that they're bringing from their degree program under the tutelage of a lean expert. But then the student is also gaining great value in learning how to apply what they're learning. And that's often the disconnect in undergrad. You're gaining all this great knowledge, but you really don't have any context to understand how do I apply this. So having student projects that are tied into maybe their curriculum and supervised by the faculty member is a great way. Formal internships, both paid and unpaid. Uh, Recruiting our graduates. Many students want to stay in Michigan, but they don't understand what the opportunities are. And so getting more and more of our Michigan-based organizations to recruit our students, our graduating students, to keep that knowledge, high educated knowledge in the state and not let them leave, or have that brain drain. There's opportunities. We always encourage people to come back, alum or non-alum, to come back and be a guest lecturer in a classroom. That's a great way for you to gain access to the best and brightest students, develop a great relationship with maybe a faculty member, and they're often the ones that really have the knowledge of who are our best and brightest students. So if you're recruiting students out of our supply chain program, doing a guest lecture with a faculty member can really help you, gain that access to know who are the students I want to make sure come to our recruiting fair. And the faculty love to bring in industry experts so that they can their share their knowledge, and it's just it's interesting and a great complement to the faculty lectures. You can use the faculty's research arm and fund research or participate in research or help with the data gathering or data collection and provide those opportunities with the faculty. You can come back for graduate degrees, Ph.D. degrees, executive education. We have continuing education programs not only in the College of Business, but the Human Resource Labor Relations offers programs. I know through the Alumni Association under Lisa's arm, they have evening college courses. We also just launched a whole series of online certificate-based courses. So many opportunities to connect. I know the biggest thing is just making people aware of those opportunities. So if you find 2 or 3 different ways to connect, I think that can really enrich and broaden your opportunities. I'm looking at some questions here. Colleen says, what amount of time do you recommend professionals invest in development each year? And again, I think that's a really personal need. It probably depends on where you're at in your career, and it depends on what your specific needs are. There might be an MBA might be really the best thing for you, and that's a much bigger investment than, say, taking a one-day finance for the non-financial manager course. Another factor would be how much time you have available to take away from your work day to go to these courses or go to a professional degree program. And then will your company support the costs of those programs? So, those are all factors that are really going to determine how much time you can devote to that kind of learning. If you don't have a lot of resources, sometimes there's scholarships that you can invest in or investigate to receive. There's also, your professional development organizations that you might attend regularly have a lot of career development within their programs, and that's built into the cost of attending the conference. So I think you have to, evaluate how much time you have available, how many resources are being provided to you, either from your own resources or through your organization, and then what your specific needs are. And again, like Dave said, you always want to look at what is the outcome I'm trying to achieve from this engagement, whether it's mentoring engagement, whether it's educational engagement, volunteer in the community engagement. What are your objectives from that? And really think that through so that it's meaningful and impactful for you. And because you're using your most precious resource, which is your time. And that's what I think we all wish we had more of. I'm looking again here at a few questions. Consistency and development. Lisa's saying a lot of times people don't have much consistency, and if you don't have consistency, that might not provide the greatest return. And there can be really, it's more reactionary than proactive. So I think that's what Lisa's getting at, that I think if you can be proactive and be thinking about your future opportunities and provide, seek out those opportunities that will help you grow your career in the future, then, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job if I don't get this training today. That's probably not the most ideal situation. Um, and then Karen is asking a ballpark estimate of how much per team member we should be budgeting for an average day of educational development with your organization. I think I'm going to let Dave answer this question, and I think the next slide is being turned over to him anyhow. So I'm going to turn off my mic, Dave. I'll let you respond to Karen's question.
Great, thanks, Kristen. So Karen, it's a great question, and as any good academic institution would tell you, it depends. Depends on a lot of different factors. What we find is if you're trying to send an individual to a specific program, so you're talking about one person going to a particular program, it's going to depend a little bit on the nature of the program location. You're going to have some travel costs and things like that, but generally speaking, you could be looking at roughly anywhere from $800 to $1,000 a day of education for a public open enrollment program for an individual. If you're looking at more of a customer and organizational type of development activity, it's going to depend on numbers, smaller numbers of people. Because if you think about a custom organizational development activity, it's more of a fixed cost, and so you're going to be looking at low numbers, lower numbers. If you were trying to develop a group of 10 to 15 people, you're going to be talking probably a little bit more than that 1,000 per day. You're probably going to be more in the 1,200 per, or maybe upwards depending on degree of customization per day. But if you're thinking larger numbers of 30 people, you get some economy and some synergy there, and it can come down to more like $600, $700 a day. Now, I give you that. You asked for ballpark. I give you that as truly a ballpark. The reality is that each situation on a custom program is kind of developed based on where is the program going to be held, who's covering cost of facilities, how much customization is there, how much investment does there need to be in upfront development to tailor the content and create the unique solution that works for this organization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, those numbers are just ballparks to help you kind of understand the magnitude of what we're talking about here. But again, as Kristen pointed out earlier, what we've often found is, ROI is a big deal inside most learning and development organizations. And so, one of the great things is if you can build a project experience where you can create a tangible opportunity to earn some savings back for the organization and be able to actually tangibly determine an ROI on a program, you can get even better better opportunities. You can actually earn money by sending people to a training. Karen, I see also or I'm sorry, it's Colleen. How common is it for companies to invest or pay for an employee's continuing education like an MBA? So this is really an interesting question too, because the trend, unfortunately, is that fewer companies are investing in sending people back for MBAs. So a lot of people have choices that they have to make. Do I want to make this personal investment, or am I going to, have some support for companies? Or the other thing we're seeing is they get partial support. The dollar value that a company has available doesn't cover the full MBA degree, but it covers a portion of it. And so you're seeing a lot more schools giving people options. You can, take your MBA in a shortened period of time, or you can extend it out to give you a longer time to use tuition assistance from a company or reimbursement from a company, or to basically create financing opportunity for that. In executive education, we are still seeing very high numbers of companies willing to pay for these opportunities. The place that we see the biggest self-pay is in career switchers, people who are particularly taking an educational program so that they can move from one organization to another. Obviously, companies kind of can understand those things and therefore less likely to fund it. But still, we have pretty good support at this point from organizations for doing that type of work.
Dave, I'll add one thing here too that I encounter a lot because I run a lot of our open enrollment courses and talk to a lot of individuals. And what we'll find sometimes at large organizations in particular, if you go through the human resource group to get approval for the training that you would like to attend, sometimes the corporate policy is they only fund degree granting opportunities through the HR group, and it seems maybe they have, the funding for that kind of investment in employees. But if you want to go through an executive education program, that would really come out of your functional or department budget. So you may still work with your HR leader that may oversee talent development or organizational development in your organization, but they don't really have the budget for each individual. It comes out of the functional department budget. So sometimes you might have to do a little investigation. If you're really driving this for yourself, you want to look into what is the company policy. Do they fund degree grant, degree programs and non-degree programs. And I've had many, especially that women's leader program, I get a lot of requests for that one. Some organizations are just too small to fund that program, so we do offer a few partial scholarships for that for nonprofit and small business to provide opportunities for those women from those kinds of organizations. But there's also many women from large companies that don't see the opportunity because their corporate policy is degree granting only. But that's when you really need to go back to your supervisor and ask them to support that out of their own budget. And some companies have a formalized methodology about that where they set aside so much money per year for that kind of training and development. Sometimes it's just really on a as need basis, and they make those evaluations and adjustments. And I'm sure Dave gets this too. We get a lot of calls from organizations trying if they want to do some targeted training on site or customized training, they would maybe contact us 6 to 9 months in advance to identify what that budget would be and then incorporate that into the next year's budget. So we may talk to an organization for quite some time before we actually are able to deliver the training because they have to build that into the budget.
Kristen, I see there's a question from Doug here about MOOCs, or massive online open courses, and um, MOOCs are quite an interesting phenomena out there. I think what you see a lot of people reporting are the enrollment numbers in MOOCs. You'll see folks talking about 10,000 enrollments and 16,000 enrollments in courses. What you don't see a lot of people reporting right now are completion rates across MOOCs, and they continue to be extremely low. A very small percentage of people actually make their way successfully through a full MOOC. Um, in spite of that, we do think that they're going to have a pretty significant impact on education, because what's really at question here is, do I need a credential from a university, from an academic institution, to make the learning valuable and relevant? And I think that question has yet to be answered. I think the advantage that executive education through university provides is the credibility that what is being taught is fundamentally sound, and that the individual who's attending is successfully attending or completing what's required to earn that credential. Again, be it a full degree or be it a certificate type program in the non-credit space. In the MOOCs, again, it's a little harder to verify that someone actually has the knowledge. However, if they can indeed use those skills and use that knowledge in a way that helps advance their career, kind of pick and choose, I think it can be profound. MSU has a committee internally kind of looking at MOOCs and trying to understand opportunities and what they present and pose for higher education. So again, I think it's going to be an interesting challenge to see how that continues to work. Most of us are also trying to understand ultimately what the financial model is behind the MOOC. Is it going to be driven by advertising revenue? Is it going to be driven by selling the credential after the fact? Is it something else? And there are some signs of where it's headed, but again, too many variants right now to be definitive.
Okay, I'm going to chime in. This is Lisa. We are at the 1:30 mark. Thank you so much to Dave and Kristin for the time you took with us today and the information that you shared. I personally got a lot out of this cast. There were some things that I didn't know about your programs. So for those of you who are interested, I will leave this chat area open for the webcast room for probably about 10 more minutes if you want to go through that and revisit any of the questions or links that were shared. I will also let you know that our next professional series webcasts, or our webcasts for June, are slated. June 13th, Kevin Doyle will be presenting Job Search Secrets Revealed. Kevin is a master marketer and has a lot of creative ideas to add some twists to get you noticed in a job search. And then on June 27th, Lou Dotterer, another great Spartan, will be talking about the franchise entrepreneur for those who are interested in dipping their toe into the entrepreneurial world, but might like to start in the structured environment that a franchise offers. He's going to be here to walk us through that. So feel free to reach out to Kristin and Dave. I've included their email links in the chat area, and we appreciate those who shared your questions today. You are welcome to reach out to me, Lisa P. at MSU EDU, for a recording of today's cast, as well as to share feedback on any other topics you would like to see us cover in our professional series for future webcasts. Thank you and have a great day.